everyone! In today's lesson we're going to learn how to create straight lines and how to create corner points. So first I'm going to go to File, Open. In Illustrator I'm going to go to File, Open. Then I will go and select my Simple Shapes assignment. I will click on the icon once and then I will click Open. So that'll open the assignment which we started working on last time. So basically you just go to File, Open, and you locate your file and then you select the icon of your file and then you click on Open. So you're going to go to File, Open, and open what you have done so far for your Simple Shapes assignment. Next we're going to have a look at the toolbar and identify the pen tool. So here's the pen tool, and then you see a tiny little triangle at the bottom of the pen tool, so you're going to click and hold with the left mouse, and then you're going to go over to the edge of the bar and let go once the bar highlights. This will allow you to tear off the menu so that you can see additional pen tool options displayed here as well. Okay, so we are basically going to use the pen tool first to create anchor points and straight line segments. Then afterwards we're going to learn how to use the rest of these tools that you can see here. So first I'm going to click once on the pen tool to activate my pen tool. Before I start drawing, I'm going to go to View and then I will select Show Grid. So View Show Grid will display a 1 by 1 inch grid which will allow me to better visualize where I'm going to be drawing my lines. So this will probably help you. If you want to turn it off, you can go to View, Hide Grid. So View Show Grid is currently active on my screen. Then, after I select my pen tool, I'm going to have a look and see what fill and what stroke I have selected at the moment. So I would recommend that you go and select Black Stroke. I would recommend that you select No Fill. So No Fill is the first box that I have here. And then I would select that you select 1 or 2 points. I'm going to use 2 points stroke thickness so that you guys can see what I'm drawing a little bit better. So basically the way the pen tool works is you just click once with the left mouse in order to create an anchor point. So when you do this, make sure that you do click only, so do not drag. If you drag, that's going to create a curved point, but we're not there yet. So for now, every time you click, make sure that you just only use the left mouse and you click once and do not drag. So if you just click, you're going to get a corner point. So if you click again, you're going to get another corner point. So these corner points are also called anchor points. So anchor points can be corner points or they can be smooth points. So right now I'm just creating corner points which are going to give me straight lines or straight segments. So every time you click, you're going to get a corner point, and then you're going to get a line connecting the two anchor points. So as you draw, you're noticing that depending on where you click on your artboard, the line or the shape will be determined by where you click. So if you keep clicking, the line will just keep on going. So how do you make it stop? So to make it stop, you're going to press Command or Control key and then just click once, and then line will discontinue and deselect. Then you will be able to start a new line. So if I go again, I click once and once more and once more with my left mouse, and then I can see I can create another line. Again, to make it stop, you press Command and you just click and the line will get deselected. To move and to recolor the shapes or the lines, you're going to use the black arrow or the selection tool to select your shape. And then you can move your shape by dragging it. You can recolor your shape. So see what happens if I use the yellow fill, then the shape kind of gets filled in with the yellow. So this is why I'm going to use no fill, so it's easier for me to draw. I can also use the black arrow, so you can click on your shape and then you can change the stroke. So that's the same as what we learned in the last lesson. You can change the fill and you can change the stroke. The same way, you can also use the bounding box to resize your line, or you can use Shift and then click and drag the edge of the bounding box in order to resize the object or the line that you drew. So this kind of line that I just drew is called open path. So now we're going to learn how to draw a closed path. So a thunderbolt, for example, would be an example of a closed path. A triangle would also be an example of a closed path. So a closed path basically is any shape that closes on itself. So to close the shape, you have to click on the first point where you started. When you put your mouse above that point, you're going to see a tiny little circle show up next to your pen tool. This is computer indicating to you that you're about to close the path. And then when you click on the first point where you started from, then the shape will close. And now I have a closed path. Let's make another closed path. So if I want to draw a triangle, I click once here, once here, once here, and then I have to click on the point where I started from, and that's going to close my shape. So now I have a closed path. And again, you're noticing that you're seeing a little circle when you're about to close the path. So if I select the black arrow, then I can change the fill and I can change the stroke of my closed path as usual. Okay, so first of all, we just need to understand the difference between an open path, such as a line or a zigzag, and a closed path. So the closed path is a closed shape, and then you have to click on the point where you started from in order to close your path. So next thing we're going to look at is this little tool here. It's called Direct Selection Tool. So this tool allows you to select individual points. So for example, if I click on my direct selection tool, or the white arrow, I can then zoom in into my zigzag, and then using the white arrow, I can click and drag any of these points. So basically the white arrow will select that point, and then that point turns black, which means the point is selected. All of the points that are not black are not selected. So only the point that is selected will turn black, and then what you can do is click and drag the selected point in order to move it. And if you wish to select more than one point, then you would have to press Shift. So if I press Shift, I can select this point as well and this point as well. So now I have 3 selected points, and I can tell because all 3 of the points turned black. So the points that are selected can now be moved up or down, which will then reshape the line that I have. Okay. Another way, and then to deselect all of these points, you just click anywhere outside of the line, and that's going to deselect your points. The other way you can select multiple points is to use the white arrow, and then you can click and drag a box with the white arrow around those points. So I click and drag diagonally with the white arrow, a selection box, and then I let go. So now again, I have these 3 points selected, and I can now move them around. So this allows you to change the shape of the line that you drew. You can also use the arrow key on your keyboard to move those points when they are selected. So I can use the down arrow to make these points go up, or I can use left or right arrow to move the points around. Once I want to deselect the line, then I simply click and the points will get deselected. So the important thing to know is that you can use the white arrow to move these anchor points or the corner points around, as I'm doing now, and this in turn changes the shape of your line. If you want to select more than one point, you have to press Shift, or you have to use the selection option activated by using the direct selection tool and dragging around those points. And then that allows you to select more than one point. So you have two options, two different ways of selecting more than one point. So now we're going to look at another feature that you have, which is add anchor point and delete anchor point. So add anchor point will add extra points along your line, and then delete anchor points will delete points along your line. So for example, if I click on this line using the white arrow, then this will allow me to see where my points are. So if you use the white arrow and you click once on your line or shape, you're going to see where those points are, but they're all going to show up as being white because none of them are selected. And then that allows you to see easier where those points are. So then you can click to select them, and then you can drag them to reshape your line. The other thing you can do now is, once you see where the points are, you can use the delete anchor point tool, which is the pen tool with a little minus next to it. So if you click on that tool, then you can click directly on any of these points, and then they will get deleted. So basically, it's sort of like a rubber band and nails. If you remove the nail, then the rubber band will just go straight. So I keep deleting these anchor points, and now I have a straight line. On the other hand, if you wish to add extra anchor points, then you're going to use add anchor point tool, which is this tool here, which looks like a pen with a plus. So in order for me to add extra points, I'm going to click once on add anchor point tool, and then every time I click, it's going to add another point along my line. So now I can use the white arrow to move those anchor points around. So a good exercise for you to practice these two tools would be to make a zigzag and then use the minus pen, which is the delete anchor point tool, to turn it into a straight line. And so then you can also use the add anchor point tool to add extra points. The thing is, you have to click exactly on the line in order for computer to register. So I'm clicking along the line, this is adding extra points, and now I'm able to see the points and move them up and down. So again, you can add points, you can delete points, etc. To deselect this line, I'm going to use the white arrow and click anywhere outside of the line. So again, if you can't visualize where the points are, what you can do is you can use the white arrow, click on the line, and then the points will show up. Notice that points that are not selected will appear white, and then if I select a single point by clicking on it with the white arrow, then that point will turn black. And then you can move it up and down, and you can also use the arrow keys for that. So when you go to add or delete anchor points, I suggest selecting your line first with the white arrow, so that way you can see where the points are. So that way you can easier see where you have to click in order to delete a point, and you can also see easier once you have added the points, you can see where they are, and then use the white arrow to move them up and down to reshape your line. So far you should be able to create an open path, to stop the pen tool, to create a closed path, and to add and delete anchor points. You should also be able to select one anchor point or multiple anchor points so that you can move them around to reshape your line. Next, we're going to look at how you can continue drawing a line. So to continue drawing the line, you just have to click with the regular pen tool on the point from which you would like to continue. And then as you do that, a little line icon shows up next to your pen tool. So that means you're about to connect and continue this line. So I will click here to connect to this point, and then that allows me to continue my line. Now I can actually go back to create that thunderbolt shape that you have on your handout, and then it's important for me to click on the point from which I started, and that's going to close the path. And again, when you're about to close the path, a little circle will show up next to your pen tool, indicating that you're about to close the path. So I click here, and then that'll close the path. So now I can recolor this to yellow to be like my handout. It's going to have a yellow fill, and it's going to have a red stroke. And I can increase the thickness of the line if I want. If the points are not in a good position, then I can just simply move them. So you click on the line to see where the points are, and then you can move the points. Now the thunderbolt that you're drawing doesn't have to be exactly the same as mine, as long as it's a closed shape and the same color. And then you can move the points around to make it look a little bit more like a thunderbolt. So really, all you need to know so far to create the zigzag and the thunderbolt, you already know. But I do want to show you a few more tips as well. A few more tools and techniques that you can use when you work with the straight line segments. So another thing I want to show you is how to constrain the pen tool. So if I click on the pen tool, and if I press shift and keep my shift pressed down, then I can click once, click again, and that's going to give me a straight line. So if I keep my shift pressed, it's going to give me a straight line. So I keep going with my shift pressed down, and that's going to give me a straight line. To make it stop, I press Control and click, or Command, and then I just click and it'll deselect it. So remember that if you want to constrain your line to be perfectly straight, then you have to press shift. So let's try this again using no fill and red stroke. So I'm going to click on the pen tool. I'm going to click once, keep my shift pressed, and then click again, and now I have perfectly straight segment. Click again, click again, click again, click again. And this gives me perfectly straight segments, okay? So you have to press Shift key in order to make the line perfectly straight. The other thing I would like to show you is how to connect two lines. So first, to make it a little bit faster, I'm going to draw a line using the line segment tool. So if I draw two lines, I'm going to make a few more. Then I'm going to show you how to connect them. So to connect these two lines, you simply have to click on the pen tool, and then you click on one side and then the other, and then it'll connect. So again, you click on one point that you wish to connect, a little line icon shows up, and then you click on the other point across, and then you connect them. So that's how you can connect lines. So for example, if I wanted to connect this line and this line, all I have to do is click on one point and then click on the other, and that's going to connect them. So I have a little bit too much stuff on my screen, so I'm going to select some stuff with my black arrow, and I will hit delete to get rid of it. So really what you need to have so far is a zigzag and a thunderbolt. So the zigzag is going to be black stroke, and then using 1 or 2 or 3 points, and then you're going to use the pen tool to just sort of draw a zigzag, and that's really kind of all you need to have so far. And then you press Command click to stop the line. Next thing we're going to look at is how to draw the rectangle. So the last shape that you have on your handout that has a straight segment is the rectangle or the perfect square. So in order to draw a perfect square, I'm actually going to zoom in so I can see my grid a little bit better. I'm going to use the pen tool. I'm going to use no fill and black stroke. I'm going to set my stroke to 1 point, and then using the grid, I will be able to visualize where I'm supposed to click in order to get straight lines. I'm also going to press shift the whole time so that I can have completely straight segments. So I will put in my first point here. I will press shift. I will go 1 inch across and then click here. Then I will go 1 inch down and then click, release your mouse, go across 1 inch, and then once you're over, you click, and then still my shift is pressed, and then I click. So now I've closed the shape by clicking on the first point where I started from, and then as per your handout, I'm going to change the stroke to be red and yellow fill will be added. And then that concludes the shapes I need to do for my simple shapes assignment, part 2. And then in the next lesson, we're going to learn how to draw curved lines. So before we start drawing the curved lines, it's a good idea to practice this over and over. So some of the things you should be able to do is select points, move points, add points, delete points, recolor the lines, resize them, and delete them. And you should be able to select single anchor points and multiple anchor points, and then try moving them around in order to reshape your lines. Next, we're going to have a look at how you can delete certain portions of a line. So to practice that, I'm going to select no fill, and I'm going to select black stroke and 1 point. So I'm going to make a zigzag line, and then I will show you how to delete a certain portion of your line in case if you wanted to shorten the line or break the line. So first, I'm going to use the white arrow and click on my line. This will allow me to see where my points are. Then I'm going to use the white arrow again to click on this point. So if I click on this point, it's going to get selected, as we know. But if I hit delete key, it's going to delete both lines on each side of the anchor point. So it'll delete everything up until the next non-selected point. So if I hit delete now, then I'm going to lose that part. I'm going to delete that part of the line. One more time, you use the white arrow, you click on the line. This allows you to see where the anchor points are. Then you use the white arrow, you click once on the anchor point, and then you hit delete, and then that'll erase that portion of the line. Another example, if I click with the white arrow on this point, then if I hit delete, it'll erase my line all the way up until the next non-selected point. So meaning this part of the line will get erased. So I hit delete, and then I have that much cut off or erased from my line. One more time, I'm going to use the white arrow. I'm going to click on this anchor point, and then if I hit delete, it'll get rid of the line up until the next non-selected point. And then if I wanted to connect them, as I showed you before, you just have to click on the 2 points you wish to connect, and then it'll connect them. So the last thing I want to show you today is a function that's called view snap to grid. So you can go to the view and scroll down until you see snap to grid. So when you turn on the snap to grid function, then your computer will only allow you to put an anchor point along the grid. So I won't be able to click here, for example, but it'll jump over to the nearest grid. So this can be helpful when you're drawing a rectangle, because the computer will jump to the nearest grid, and then that'll allow you to draw a shape faster. I recommend that you turn that off when you're drawing your technical drawings, because if you have it on, then the computer won't allow you to put a point wherever you want, but instead it'll just keep jumping to the nearest grid. So this function is only useful when you're drawing rectangles or when you're drawing specific geometric shapes, but I'm going to be turning it off when I draw my technical drawings. So to turn it off, again, you go to View, and then you go to Snap to Grid, and then you will see that the Snap to Grid is turned off because the check mark is no longer there. So you can turn it on and off. And that concludes today's presentation. In the next lesson, we're going to learn how to draw curved lines.